الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم. We're discussing the chapter on Tayyamum. We discussed last far, just a brief, quick recap. If a person he does not have access to water within a radius of 1.8 kilometers, then he's not mukallaf to go and fetch the water. He can make Tayyamum. And also, if he does not have access to water within a radius of 1.8 kilometers, it's not necessary for him even to delay the salah, but maybe we will find water. He can make tayammum immediately, right? And then also the other thing also, that if a person is sick and or he's not sick, but if he use the water, he will get sick. And here when we say sick, we don't mean just like a running nose or you'll feel a bit cold. You will get like a fever, you will get a cold, etc. Something like that. Or but the Hanafi madhab is not as strict as the Shafi madhab. The Shafi madhab says you must fear, there must be a fear of loss of lam or life. Then you can make tayammum, right? Um, so yes, sometimes maybe you have a rash, and this rash is really bad rash. Make wudu that if you touch that portion and whatever, or your face, whatever, or your whole got the rash in your whole body or whatever. Well, it's a different masla. If you've got only one portion, then you wash the other portions and you make masa on the portion that got the. Yeah, in this case, here to be we're speaking about where the whole body, is covered in a rash. And they also you can make the yamum, right? So as I said, if there is a fear of getting sick or you got the illness and it will get worse, right? That is briefly, but remember I said I did mention several times that's just like you got a little inconvenience. Maybe it's cold. Now you say no, it's very cold. I'm gonna make tayammum. No, if you're gonna make tayammum and you're gonna get sick, you're gonna get heavy fever or whatever. And also, sometimes when you use cold water, you get people have incident where one person also needed a faras ghusl now recently, and there was no hot water, and he used a cold water, ice cold water. And as a result of using that cold water, he got like a fit or something, like a seizure. Talking about, you're not just speaking about a little inconvenience, inshallah. Right, Tayammama? Muslimun, right? Interesting masla, yeah. Sometimes, I told you, I mentioned to several times, maybe the masla itself don't seem so relevant. If you look at the masla, it don't seem so relevant. But the usul that you learn from there is so important. And this is one of those masail where maybe the masla is not so relevant, but the usul that you learn, we'll point it out as we go through it, inshallah. Okay, so the masla is as such, فَإِن تَيَمَّمَ مُسْلِمٌ, a person made tayammum, it was a Muslim, all the conditions of tayammum was found, like there was no water, or there was water, but he was ill, whatever, right? ثُمَّ ارْتَدَّ, نَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ, he became a murtad, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, protection in Allah Ta'ala will protect us. Then ثُمَّ أَسْلَمَ, then he became a Muslim again. So remember, he made tayammum while he was a Muslim. Then he became a murtad. And then he accepted Islam again. Then he accepted Islam again, right? So what is the position of his tayammum? فَثُمَّ فَهُوَ عَلَى تَيَمُّمِهِ. Yeah, the preferred opinion is he's still at tayammum. وقال زفر, Imam Zufar rahimahullah says, يَبْطُلُ تَيَمُّمُهُ. When he left Islam, his tayammum became batil. Why? لأن الكفر ينافيه. That he's saying that taharat and kufr cannot exist together. The moment you become kafir, you lose that taharat hukmiyah. Remember, wudu and tayammum is not a physical taharat, it's an abstract taharat. It's a condition that you are in. So the moment you became murtad, it's negated, right? So he's saying فيستوي فيه الابتداء والانتهاء كالمحرمية في النكاح. So what he's saying here, this is interesting. I told you sometimes maybe the masla is not so relevant, but you learn from that other things. Let's look at the masaf mahramiyat first. The masaf mahramiyat that they explain here in the Shara is, example, somebody got two young children married. Maybe they don't do this so often here, maybe, but in the Kitab, this is discussed. And in India, etc., also they do this here. And in bygone days, they used to do that. That while a child is still young, boy, girl, they make their nikah finished. Obviously, they don't love with each other. Obviously, when they become big and they become mature, etc., then they love with each other. Sometimes maybe the grandfather, his wish that this grandchild must marry that grandchild, this girl must marry that boy, etc. So they make the nikah finish. And when they come of age, then maybe, or they will live together. Or maybe this maybe happened a lot amongst the royalty. They want to preserve their bloodline or something like that, right? So they make the nikah finish off the child, right? So they give an example here. Say, for instance, um, two young children under the age of two, the nikah was made. They were total strangers, right? They were total strangers, and the nikah was made. And then after the nikah was made, a woman came and breastfed both of them. So after the woman breastfed both of them, what are they? They are foster siblings. Can they marry each other? They can't marry each other. So this is an example of where something which was initially permissible, so it was jaiz ibtida'an, but intiha'an. At the end, it was impermissible. Are you with me? What is the example? Something which was permissible initially, and then it became impermissible because something that came afterwards. Now, also in the fiqh books, there's a word called tari. Tara'a yatra'u fawa tari'un. So this was كان جائزا ابتداء فطرأ المحرمية فما كان جائزا, you understood? So now this year Imam Zufar is saying this is similar like how a person that see he was a Muslim, he made tayammum, right? He was a Muslim and mum. So it was permissible, it was fine, his tayammum was done. But then something came afterwards and made the tayammum impermissible. Similar to how these two young children, they were married, the nikah was permissible, they were halal for each other once they grow up. But because a woman breastfed both of them, they are not permissible for each other. Are you with me? See now, لأن الكفر ينافيه. So he's saying the kufr is like how that breastfeeding came afterwards and made something which was permissible, impermissible. فيستوي فيه الابتداء والانتهاء. So he's saying, what is saying here, فيستوي فيه الابتداء والانتهاء. Like how in the beginning, if something is permissible, or it's like how in the beginning, if something that becomes impermissible, like that afterwards at the end, it can also become impermissible. You understood that? Remember this ibarat, remember this text here. It's a bit, when you say, it's metorisi pechidi, it's a bit tricky. Like how in the beginning, it can become impermissible. Like how what he's saying here is, see, if a non-Muslim made tayammum, is his tayammum valid? His tayammum is not valid. Why is tayammum is not valid? Because you got no niyat. And when in tayammum, you must have niyat. Are you with me? So, ibtida'an, this person's non-Muslims tayammum is not permissible. So, intiha'an, and after having made tayammum and he became Muslim, then too it should not be permissible. You understood that? You sure you got that? I'll repeat it. What does this mean? فَيَسْتَوِي فِيهِ الْإِبْتِدَاءُ وَالْإِنْتِهَاءُ means like Imam Sufyan is saying, like how you also, the Hanafis or the rest of the Imam of the Hanafi Madhab, they saying that in the beginning, if a non-Muslim made tayammum is not permissible, right? So at the end, when he became like became a non-Muslim, it's also not permissible. Like how it was not permissible for him to have tayammum in the beginning, right? If he made tayammum because he had no niyat. Same thing when he became a non-Muslim, they too it will not be possible to have to make tayammum or have tayammum or, you know what I'm saying. And then he says same like how the mahramiyat must I explained you like the two children, right? So now we're gonna give our proof. ولنا أن الباقي بعد التيمم صفة صفة كونه طاهرا. Say, look here, this person was a Muslim, right? And after being a Muslim, he made tayammum. And when he made tayammum, obviously the condition of tayammum was found there, that he was unable to use water or he had no access to water. So he entered into the condition of taharat. You understood? وَلَنَا أَنَا الْبَاقِيَةِ. And الباقية بعد تيمم صفة كونه طاهرا. Then فاعتراض الكفر عليه لا ينافيه. So he's saying now after that becoming kafir, after the taharat is established, yes, in the beginning he a niyat, but do you have to have a niyat right through? No, you don't have to have a niyat. The niyat is necessary at the time of making the tayammum. You understand what I'm saying? So فاعتراض الكفر عليه لا ينافيه. Then the coming of the kufr in between, the arrival of the kufr in لا ينافيه does not negate the tayammum. Why? What's our proof? كما لو اعترض على الوضوء. Like how if a Muslim made wudu, and he became murtad, and then he became a Muslim again, we'll say he's still in wudu. You say he's still in wudu because the kufr, it is not negatory to the quality of taharat, right? So like how the wudu was not affected by the irtidad, same thing here, the tayammum will not be affected by the irtidad, right? وإنما لا يصح. Then we're going to answer, here's our answer to this. فيستوي فيه الابتداء والانتهاء. Remember what Imam Zufar said, look here, when a person was not a Muslim, his tayammum was not valid. His tayammum was not valid. So obviously when he became a non-Muslim, it should not be valid also, right? We say, وإنما لا يصح من الكافر ابتداء لعدم النية منه. That you cannot use this to say that, look here, a non-Muslim's tayammum is not valid when he makes tayammum. So after he makes tayammum, then if he becomes a kafir, his Islam is not valid. No, that is qiyas wal farik. It is two different scenarios. The only reason why the non-Muslim tayammum was not valid was because we know that niyat is necessary in tayammum, and this person did not have niyat, did not have intention. So because he did not have intention, his tayammum was not valid in the first place. So so niyat was a condition for ibtida, to start of the thing. It is not a condition for intiha. It's not a condition for baqa. You understood? For the tayammum to remain. So there we take that's what explaining. وإنما لا يصح من الكافر ابتداء, that the tayammum was not correct from the kafir in the beginning. لعدم النية منه, because he had no intention. So kufr, so to say, is not negatory to taharat. It is just that he didn't have a niyat, and that's how the masla differs from wudu. You understood that? Okay, read the next text. The next text is very interesting, important, also very relevant. So I told you these masail don't maybe seem relevant, but the amount of usul, how this is loaded with usul, quite a bit. لأن القدرة هي مرادة في الوجود الذي في غاية الربوبية الكرامة. Right. So I hope you understood that properly, right? Next, Mister, وينقض وينقض التيمم كل شيء ينقض الوضوء. Whatever breaks the wudu will break tayammum. So all the conditions are simple. All the conditions of tayammum was found. You didn't have water, or maybe you had water but you're not allowed. You couldn't use it because of health reasons, like we explained earlier. But now you passed wind, right? Or you pass number two, or you wudu broke. I mean, was this pass number two, whatever, or you bled somewhere. So the same things that break the wudu will break the tayammum, right? That's what he's saying. Exactly the same thing. وَيُنْقِذُ or maybe you had a relationship, husband-wife relationship, or you were sleeping, you had a dream, and as a result of that, some sperm, whatever came out, and it will break your wudu. Same thing. وَيُنْقِذُ التَّيَمُّمَ كل شيء ينقذ الوضوء. Why? لأنه خلف عنه فأخذ حكمه. This is a substitute for wudu. You make only tayammum in the place of wudu. So exactly the same laws of wudu will also be applicable. Are you with me? But now there's something extra. وينقذه أيضا رؤية الماء. If, for example, you made wudu because there was no water, but you were traveling, and after traveling, you saw some water, right? So the availability of water, or if you were sick and you were unable to use the water, and now you got the ability to use the water, now you will be able to make wudu again. Now you'll be able to, sorry, now this will also break it. So now you're able to make wudu. This will also um, nullify your tayammum. وينقذ أيضا رؤية الماء. Okay, get on reading from there. وينقذ أيضا رؤية الماء. So رؤية here could mean, as I told you, the ability to use the water. Right? Carry on. Yeah. So إذا قدر على when you have the ability to use it. Carry on. Yeah. Right. لأن القدرة هي المراد بالوجود. So when we say there, when you see water, when water becomes available, what is meant? What is meant here that the original factor that stopped you from using the water, that is not present anymore, right? You were unable to have access to the water, or you had access to the water but you were sick. So لأن القدرة, because the ability هي المراد, it is the intended thing بالوجود, by the existence of water, right? الذي وغاية لطهورية, and the existence, the ability to use the water, having access to the water, هي غاية, it is the end point لطهورية التراب, for the ability of the sand being a cleanser. What he's saying here is this here, simple what he's saying. Look here, sand intrinsically, it is not tahur. Sand intrinsically, it doesn't cleanse you. But Allah Ta'ala has made it a cleanser for you. Why did Allah Ta'ala make it a cleanser for you? Because you were unable to use the water, or you had no access to the water. So now, when you find water and you have access to water, so that shows you the reason that allowed you, or the reason that changed um, the water from, or sand from dirt into a tahurat, it is not there anymore. So it loses ability to cleanse you. Are you with me? That's what he's saying there. Yeah. لأن القدرة, because قدرة of having ability to use water, هي المراد, it is the intended thing. بالوجود, by saying that water is available, right? بالوجود هو غاية, which is the end point of the طهارة, right? Read the next one. Is that clear? Obviously, it's quite clear. Carry on, read. Yeah. So the next thing what they're explaining here is this here, that sometimes the water is physically there. Sometimes the water is physically there, right? But you, despite it being physically there, you can still make tayammum. That's why we said it's not just the non-existence of the water; it is qudrat al ma. Like simple example, you are sick. If you're going to use water, you're going to get very sick. Or like I told you, you are on the bed, you are in traction, but the bathroom is there. You can't go to get it water. There's no one to help you. Yes, when there's someone to help you, then they must bring the water to you. But nobody can bring the water. So even though the water is there, but you don't have qudrat, right? So here's another example of where the water is there, but you don't have qudrat. وَخَائِفُ السَّبُعِ. What? I got the khawf السَّبَعِ. What you got? سَبُعِ. سَبُعِ. The fear of a predatory animal. وَالْعَدُوِّ. Or the fear of an enemy. وَالْعَطْشِ. The fear of thirst. عَاجِزٌ حُكْمًا. Is considered to be an unable person. حُكْمًا, technically. So what I'm saying here is, look here, you traveling, right? You got no water and there's a pond there, but there's a huge lion sitting there, right? Or there's an elephant sitting there. Elephant is drinking water, and maybe right now you can't go there because you know that the lion will attack you, or you can't go there because you know that elephant will attack you, or maybe there's some robbers, there's some thieves, whatever there. I think change the change the page, please. So there's somebody there that will harm you, really. So now, even though the water is there, the water is mawjood, but you are not qadir. That's what he's saying there. Look there again. إذا قدر على استعماله, when he's able to use it. So the mere presence of the water is not good enough. You must have qudrat, right? One atshi, and you have water there, right? You have some water, but you're traveling, and you know if you take this water to make wudu, you're gonna die of thirst. You're gonna not have water. So there is water, but there's no qudrat. You understood the difference between water being there, not having qudrat of the water, right? So so here ajizun hukman. Physically, you're not unable to use the water because you can take the water and you can use it. But in Shariat, this hukman means according to Shariat, you can be considered that you're unable to use it. Like another example, the first example we discussed earlier, you're very, very sick, or you got a bad rash on both your, on your whole body, so you can't even wash any part of your body. So there you're gonna make tayammum. If you make a ghusl, you're gonna get this rash is gonna get maybe like you got like open sores or blisters or something. Allah Ta'ala protect. Maybe you got shingles, very bad shingles over your whole body. Allah Ta'ala protect. Right? So uh, there is wujud, but there's no qudrat. So you say hukman here means what it means to be hukman is the haqiqatan the water is there. What you say, ma? In sharia, you can say even hukman also means shar'an that you are shariat has excused you, right? Carry on. The next mas'ala is interesting mas'ala. وَالنَّائِمُ عِنْدَ أَبِي حَنِيفَةَ قَادِرٌ تَقْدِيرًا. That if a person was sleeping, but they came across water, he didn't even know about it. So they also will say that although he didn't know about it, but qudratan, right? So the scenario is والنائم عند أبي حنيفة قادر تقديرا. Say for like حتى لو مر النائم المتيمم الماء بطل تيممه عنده. So this, for example, simple example to understand this here. You were traveling, right? So you qualified as a mutayammim. There was no water within 1.8 kilometers. You read your, so like how we discussed, you read your salah. Your salah is valid, no problem, because at that point in time you did qualify, right? So this is an interesting masala also. If you qualify as a mutayammim and you read your salah, then within the time you come across water, you don't have to repeat your salah. You like simple example, you are traveling, we're on a resort namaz now. I don't think we're gonna make it to the Shah Altra. So I can see what 8.8 kilometers. There's no water here. So now within Zohar time was still in, and you say, oh, Zohar time was still in. We got water. We have to read now and reread now namaz. No, you don't have to do that. Because that at that time when you read your salah, you qualified as a mutayammim, right? So same thing here. We saying, okay, not same thing, but I'm saying so. I was in a scenario. So you read your Zohar already, and then maybe you stepped away in the car. Now you stopped by the Shell Ultra City or you stopped by the restaurant, whatever. You were sleeping right through. Everybody else got out of the car. They made wudu or they made whatever for their stuff, and the car carried on. So they were saying, here you had kudrat al ma. Even though you were sleeping, you didn't know about it. Look there, follow now. وَالنَّائِمُ, the sleeping person in the Abi Hanifa, according to Hanifa, qadirun, you were considered, he had kudrat. So the kudrat, the external, so this is interesting, Masa. The kudrat was there, it was there, but due to some apathy from his side, it was not done. Like takdiran means you consider it to be there. حتى لو مر النائم, to such an extent, if النائم المتيمم, a mutayammim sleeping person, he passes upon the water, بطل تيممه عنده, his tayammum will become باطل أكون معنفة. والمراد ما يكفي للوضوء لأنه لا معتبر بما دونه ابتداء فكذا انتهاء. So here he's saying, we discuss all this masla, that qudrat al ma, that will negate your tayammum. So you made tayammum, you qualified, But when you had the ability to, right? So having Qudrat again underwater, that will negate your or to nullify your tayammum. But what I'm saying is about it, like how initially you didn't have sufficient water to make tayammum, that allowed you to make tayammum. Same thing here. If you find sufficient water to make wudu, not just any water, right? You must find sufficient water that's over and above your drinking needs. Like even if you find water, but if this water you need for drinking, if you don't have this water to drink, you're gonna die. So exact the same thing is applying here. You must like the amount of water that you had access to that disqualified you from making tayammum. You must come across the same amount of water now to negate your tayammum. You understood that? It's saying, well, murad, what is the ma yakfi lil wudu? What is in meant by what will be sufficient for wudu? Right? Oh, sorry, I'm reading wrong. والمراد ما يكفي للوضوء. That's مبتدا خبر. When we say قدر الماء, we mean that which يكفي للوضوء, that is sufficient for the wudu. Right. So if you come across or you have قدرة lesser than that, it's مبتدا خبر. I read it wrong. So long. Sorry, ma. والمراد what intended ما يكفي للوضوء, what is sufficient for wudu. Why? لأنه لا معتبر بما دونه. If you just found 1 cup of water, or you just found a little water sufficient for you to drink when you are thirsty and you are going to die in it, there's no consideration for it. Why? Right, so لأنه لا معتبر بما دون ابتداء. ابتداء means here, with this, that's a nice. To qualify to make wudu, you have to find so much water. The same thing for qada intian. The same thing here, the same amount that allowed you to qualify, you need to have access or qudrat on the same amount, which will disqualify you as a mutayammim. Is that clear? Okay, time is up. We'll stop there. We'll continue, inshallah. So tomorrow there will be no classes. Friday there will be classes, and Saturday. بس سبحان الله وبحمده